So good morning, everyone, and thank you all for coming here this morning. I'd also like to publicly acknowledge our team who worked to prepare the tax news that has been distributed this morning and which many of you received, as Pat said, this morning around 2:30 a.m. It takes a tremendous amount of effort and dedication. I think, as Pat said in one of his articles not too long ago, we accountants become journalists for the night, so I'll take it as high praise when he said the document was an incredible document. Anyhow, team, thanks very much. So what I'll attempt to do in 15 minutes is to summarize the main tax proposals in the Minister's marathon 4-hour presentation last night. It was 4 1/4 actually, yeah. With regards to income tax, as I think most people expected, the Minister didn't really propose any changes to the taxation of the controversial travel and entertainment allowances. Instead, as many had hoped, he decided to increase the upper limit of the tax band subject to the basic income tax rate from $24,200 to $30,000, and he also reduced the basic income tax rate from 20% to 17.5% with effect from August 1st, 2012, which is a little odd to come in the middle of the income year, but anyhow, it's happened before. In a challenging economic environment, this proposed adjustment will surely restore some previously lost disposable incomes and hopefully stimulate some economic activity and growth. By our calculations, it will result in an increase in the net take-home pay for many individuals of about $135 per month. So I guess every little bit counts. This will partially be offset, however, by the introduction of what he termed a small greening levy to assist the government to meet the costs of disposing of our ever-increasing volume of garbage. The levy proposed will be 0.1% for persons earning between $25,000 and $50,000 annually, 0.15% for persons earning between $50,000 and $100,000 annually, and 0.25% for persons earning above $100,000 annually. The levy is to be collected through the NAS and remitted to the Consolidated Fund. With respect to VAT and indirect taxes, well, I think many had hoped that the rate of VAT would be reduced to 15%. It was clear that such a step was unlikely given current economic conditions and the macroeconomic goals of the government, and that it would have been very difficult to justify a reduction at this time. The Minister then conservatively opted to maintain the rate at 17.5% until further notice. As the trend worldwide has been to increase VAT rates, this is not unexpected. Certainly VAT has proven to be a very efficient and effective method for any government to raise revenue, and Barbados is no exception. We are, however, somewhat disappointed that the Minister did not see fit to zero-rate transactions between group companies, which we've been asking for a long time, as we believe that this would significantly alleviate unnecessary cash flow burdens for transactions between group companies. The Minister did propose an increase in the chargeable value for excise tax of new vehicles from $45,000 to $55,000, as well as a reduction in the excise tax rate by 25%. He said both measures were to be reviewed after 1 year. We think these measures will be welcomed by the automotive dealers and should make mid-size cars more affordable. With respect to renewable energy, I think Busy, you'll be quite happy for this. Continuing the theme through successive budgets for a few years now, the Minister outlined a number of exciting measures for renewable energy businesses. He stated that renewable energy was critical, if not the most important component of restructuring the Barbadian economy within the next 5 years. He indicated that with the high cost of electricity, as cited publicly by many businesses, it's the largest monthly expense outside of payroll, and that the major part of government's vision for the restructuring of the economy was the diversification of the current sources of generating electricity. With this in mind, the Minister proposed amendments to the Electricity Act of Barbados to facilitate the orderly distribution of excess electricity produced outside the main power company to the national grid. He also outlined various incentives for business generating and distributing electricity from a renewable energy source, and for businesses producing and distributing and or installing renewable energy systems for electricity generation. These include low interest rate loans, VAT and duty concessions on building materials and supplies for construction of facilities, a zero rate of VAT to apply to all renewable energy and energy efficient systems and products produced in Barbados, an income tax holiday for 10 years, a deduction of 150% of interest on loans for certain activities, a deduction of 150% on expenditure for staff training, marketing and product development and research, and a deduction for income tax purposes by individuals of funds spent on renewable energy and energy efficient training. In addition, he introduced various incentives for investors in such businesses. These included an exemption from, he said, withholding taxes for 10 years on interest earned by financial intermediaries on financing for the development, manufacturing, and installations of renewable energy and energy-efficient products and technologies. We hope he really meant to say corporation tax, because an exemption from withholding taxes doesn't really help, because that's an advance payment of tax. He also proposed an exemption from corporation taxes for 10 years for venture capital funds investing in the renewable energy and energy efficiency sectors, and a deduction of contributions to venture capital funds for a period of 10 years where investments are directed to renewable energy and energy efficiency projects. In addition, he also proposed an exemption of withholding taxes for a period of 10 years on dividends for shareholders of companies investing in entrepreneurial businesses engaged in installation or supply of renewable energy or energy efficient products. He further proposed an exemption from all taxes on income earned from the sale of electricity produced from the utilization of renewable energy equipment by households. So it would appear that he's expecting householders to be able to generate electricity and sell it back to the national grid as well. The government has taken an aggressive approach in the area of renewable energy and energy efficient products, and it's certainly commendable, as this sector has a massive direct and indirect impact on the economic health of the country and has potential for savings of a significant amount of foreign exchange. But it's also necessary that many of the proposals which have been mentioned be clearly legislated and articulated by the relevant ministries in order that both individuals and companies can maximize the benefits outlined. Although the benefits of these initiatives proposed by government may take some time to be realized, it's really essential that the process be started as a matter of urgency. Moving on to international business. International business is a key driver of economic growth in Barbados, as everyone I think now realizes. It's the second largest generator of foreign exchange for the island and a very large contributor to corporate income taxes for Barbados, and it also employs skilled Barbadians at wages at the higher end of the scale. It certainly has the potential to become an even greater contributor to Barbados' GDP if it were provided with the proper business facilitation atmosphere. However, it unfortunately relies primarily on the Canadian market to generate business. As many of you are aware, Canada has made recent changes to its tax law. Therefore, while trying to develop new markets, Barbados had to take action to reduce a noticeable erosion of its Canadian market, which would result in loss of jobs, tax revenues, and the spin-off benefits to tourism, hospitality, and the general Barbados business community. The government proposed various changes to the tax and other provisions relating to international business. The first such proposal is to reduce the rate of tax for IBCs and international societies with restricted liabilities for taxable income exceeding $30 million in 2 phases, from the current year of 1%, the current rate of 1% to decline to 0.5% for 2012 taxation year, and to further reduce this rate to 0.25% for the 2013 taxation year. The Minister also proposed to extend these new rates to international banks so that they, IBCs and ISRLs, will be taxed at the same rates. To ensure there's a consistency in policy regarding the reduced tax rates for IBCs, ISRLs, and international banks, the limitation on the application of the foreign tax credit provisions in the IBC Act and the SRL Act will also be adjusted in line with the proposed rates. That is the limitation of foreign tax credits such that these companies pay tax at a rate of not less than 1%. That rate will be reduced to 0.5% for 2012 and not less than 0.25% for 2013. The Minister also proposed to expand the range of services eligible for the foreign currency earnings credits available in the Income Tax Act to include exploration, extraction, and other mining and oil and gas activities, licensing and sub-licensing of intellectual property, and shipping services. Truthfully, only time will tell if the rate reductions will be sufficient to stop the outflow of international business to Bermuda and the Cayman Islands. Many members of the international business community wanted the rates reduced from 1% to 0.1%. Certainly reducing the option to 0% is not really, the rate to 0% is not really an option, given that Barbados continues to pursue a policy of expanding its network of double taxation agreements. And the expansion of the range of services eligible for the FCEC is very welcomed and appreciated. Again, the delay of passage into law of these proposals due to inaction or the election maybe that will occur in less than a year will result in a number of companies leaving and jobs being lost, as companies will only delay a departure from Barbados for so long. Also proposed that share transfers, which form part of the orderly restructuring of business entities, will be exempt from the payment of property transfer taxes, provided that the transaction results in no change of beneficial ownership. As everyone knows, the periodic examination of corporate group structures is an important element of ensuring ongoing efficiencies and the maximization of available resources. This is ever more the case during a difficult recessionary period that threatens the survival of many enterprises. This measure is therefore a timely one, but the details relevant to its execution and administration have not been clearly set out. The true impact on business will only be determined when there is clarity as to the type of transactions that will qualify as reorganizations and the definition of no change in beneficial ownership to be applied, especially since historically the latter has been given an extremely narrow interpretation by the relevant authorities. Now, at the same time, we believe that it would have been useful for this exemption to be extended to the transfer of real estate between group companies, as the costs associated with such transfers can be prohibitive, and quite often they're done, transfers of real estate and shares are done at the same time when you're reorganizing a group of companies. Now, the Minister highlighted many areas of the economy in need of capital for investment, including agriculture, alternative energy, creative industries, education, etc. He noted that the traditional financial institutions are not providing the financing, as these types of projects often fail to meet their risk profile. The Minister proposed fiscal incentives for companies to list on the junior stock market, including a full income tax holiday for the first 5 years of a 10-year incentive period, and what he termed a half income tax holiday for the second half of the incentive period. We can only assume that meant the corporate tax rate will be paid by such companies would be 50% of the current tax rate at the time. He also proposed an exemption from withholding taxes on dividends and other distributions from companies listed on the junior market, and an exemption from transfer tax on transfers of shares in junior market companies. Now, the Minister noted that in order for a company to qualify for these tax incentives, the following would be required. That is, the company must have a minimum of 50 shareholders. No single shareholder should own more than 25% of the shares of the company, and no other shareholder should own more than 5% of the shares. He noted that if at any point these are violated, the company must repay the government all taxes claimed. These proposals provide an avenue for companies to raise capital on the junior market which may not otherwise be accessible. However, it's noteworthy that while this is a worthwhile initiative, its success will largely depend on the listing requirements and on the annual cost of compliance for these companies. With respect to agriculture, to provide incentives to the agricultural sector and increase the level of local food production, a few proposals were made, the most important one being granting agro-businesses over the next 5 years access to $20 million in financing from the proposed Hotel Refurbishment, Energy Efficiency and Food Production Fund to be established by the National Insurance Scheme. The need to grow more of what we eat is clear, as our food import bill is apparently astronomical. However, access to the funds and the cultivation services must be efficient to achieve the desired result of encouraging the production of locally grown food. The challenges facing the tourism and hospitality sector in Barbados have been highlighted as the aged nature of plant, high operating costs, and an uncertain global economic environment. In response to this, the Minister outlined the following measures. He proposed that land taxes on hotel accommodation be frozen at current levels, 2011 to 12, for the next 2 evaluation cycles, and that small and medium-sized hotels can apply to the newly established fund that I previously mentioned, in which $50 million has been earmarked for hotel refurbishment for financing to refurbish and or upgrade their hotel plant. And he also proposed providing an additional $5 million to the BTA to assist it with special marketing activities for the rest of 2012. Now, we all recognize that the hotel sector is under tremendous strain with the downturn of the world economy and the decrease in tourist arrivals. And certainly the tourism industry is one of the leading foreign exchange sectors and has declined over the years, and any major initiative to give support is certainly welcome. Again, however, the speed with which the Hotel Refurbishment Fund can be established and disbursements made will be critical factors for those hotels that are feeling the brunt of the financial crisis. And the last point I'll mention is with respect to immigration, where the Minister proposed a series of special entry permits, especially geared towards high net worth individuals who have net assets of not less than $10 million, subject to them submitting copies of tax returns and audited financial statements. we believe that, as the Minister alluded to, for some time now, the persons wishing to invest in Barbados who have been seeking a more favourable immigration policy, and that these policies will respond adequately to these requests and should therefore assist in attracting much needed foreign exchange to the country. Now, it's noteworthy that the proposals do not provide citizenship or Barbados passports to the individuals, but rather it allows them to stay in the island for a longer period of time based on the fulfilment of certain conditions, and it certainly should increase the economic activity in the country. The measures, in addition to some proposals that were made to the Income Tax Act a while ago to tax those individuals at very low rates, should certainly make Barbados a much more attractive place for high net worth individuals to reside permanently. And that's about it.